Protege turns on the president. Omarosa Manigault-Newman has the White House feeling queasy today. First, she releases audio of her firing by Chief of Staff John Kelly. And this morning, she ratcheted up the tension, releasing a taped phone call with President Trump himself.
Omarosa, what's going on? I just saw on the news that you're thinking about leaving. What happened?
General Kelly came to me and said that you guys wanted me to leave.
No, nobody even told me about it. Nobody.
Wow.
You know, they run a big operation, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
God damn it. I don't love you leaving at all.
Now, we can get lost in the weeds wondering if Omarosa thinks Mr. Trump knew about her ouster ahead of time because she's made conflicting comments on that. We know her bottom line right now is selling her new book, Unhinged, an insider's account of the Trump White House. But the more intriguing questions are these. How did she manage to make these recordings in the Situation Room? And are there more tapes? New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman says the White House believes there could be dozens of other Omarosa tape recordings. Joining me now is Aaron Delmore, senior political correspondent for Bustle, and pop culture expert Jawn Murray, who has some personal insight. So, Jawn, I'm going to start with you. You've been friends with Omarosa for more than a decade. Have you heard any of these tapes?
Well, Carol, yes, I met Omarosa in 2004. She was one of my closest friends up until she went to work for the Trump administration. That caused a bit of a strain on our relationship. But we are in touch, and I can't say definitively if I've heard the tapes or not. But what I can tell you is Omarosa has enough recordings for a White House greatest hits collection. She's chronicled every aspect of her time in this White House, and she's met with the FBI about it. She may be meeting with Robert Mueller about it. Omarosa could be this administration's deep throat.
So how many tapes do you think? Maggie Haberman says she has dozens. Do you know that she has more than dozens, which would be enough in my book?
Carol, Omarosa worked for this administration for about 12 months, 11 months. They gave her the extra month as a courtesy. And I believe that she was recording most of her time in the White House. Here's the thing. Omarosa was an outlier. She knew that she was not wanted there, and she had a level of access to Donald Trump that most of the people there did not like that she had. And as she began getting pushback, and as there was tensions with some of the people in the White House, she began to chronicle things because she saw what the trend was with the White House. When you leave this administration, they say you're a coffee person, an errand person. They didn't really know you. You weren't that close. And then maybe a few months later or a Robert Mueller investigation later, they come out with more details about what the relationships actually were. So I'll tell you this. Simon & Schuster is not a book company that puts out books through Gallery Books that is not vetted. And this book passed their legal department at a 99% ratio. Only 2 things were removed. So it speaks to the validity of what they were able to authenticate with her tapes and everything that she's put in this tomb.
Okay, so Aaron, let's look at this from a political angle. So Mr. Trump did 2 tweets this morning on the subject of Omarosa. I'll read you one of them. Wacky Omarosa, who got fired 3 times on The Apprentice, now got fired for the last time. She never made it and never will. She begged me for a job, tears in her eyes. I said, okay. People in the White House hated her. She was vicious but not smart. I would rarely see her but heard really bad things. And he goes on to say she was nasty and she deserved to be fired. So if what John says is true, Aaron, and Omarosa has dozens, more than dozens of tapes to back everything up she's saying in this book, how harmful could it be to the White House?
Well, the White House is certainly bracing itself for impact here. You see their strategy out on full display, Carol. It's to distance themselves from Omarosa and discredit her as a credible figure that's out in the news. That's why we see those tough words coming not only from President Trump, but from Sarah Huckabee Sanders and from various White House spokespeople. You could see why this is problematic for the White House. Certainly, she has a long working relationship with the president, not just during her months in the White House, but for nearly a decade and a half. Through The Apprentice and through other functions, especially in public life. She branded herself as somebody who knows President Trump, and right now she's showing that she can out-Trump Trump when it comes to the media circuit.
But here's the thing, John. She wrote about Frank Luntz, who's a pollster, Michael Cohen, who's, of course, Mr. Trump's former personal lawyer, and Sean Spicer, who used to be Sarah Sanders. All 3 of these people said that what Omarosa said in this book about them and what they witnessed was simply not true. It's a lie. So how are we supposed to believe anything she says? Because, yes, she could have recorded conversations, but you can do stuff to the recorded conversations too.
Well, that would require a lot of work, and I don't think a legal department at CBS Simon Schuster would have approved anything like that. But what we do know, and what her other accusation is, that a lot of these people have signed this non-disclosure agreement that says that you can't disparage Trump or this administration in perpetuity. And so if Sean Spicer and the others who are no longer there have actually done this, then they would say that. They would get in line with the party lines. But what I do know is this. Omarosa is very detail-oriented. Omarosa has been recording things and chronicling things ever since I've known her. And these tapes do exist. The White House is aware that these tapes exist. And there is a tape that Trump admits that he may not actually be running this administration. There's another tape where he's very incoherent, which really speaks to this, the whole rumor mongering about his mental capacity and is there dementia or something going on. So there are audio tapes that substantiate a lot of the things that she says, and as we see her continue with these interviews, she's releasing more and more of them. Okay, so if John is right, and I don't know if John's right, Aaron, but I'm always right, Carol. I'm always right. You're always right, I know. So Aaron's drip, drip, drip. I'm sure Omarosa wants to sell as many books as possible, so she's going to be very selective as to what tapes she releases when. And then there's this Robert Mueller investigation going on, and Paul Manafort's on trial, and that verdict could come down later this week, and we still have the Michael Cohen trial to go. It's just ugly.
Big picture-wise, it's a hectic time in the administration for all of the reasons that you outlined, Carol, plus everything on the domestic and the international front and the backdrop of the midterm elections just under 90 days away. So yeah, it's an incredibly, incredibly busy time in this White House. And they're taking it, you know, step by step. Right now, Omarosa dominates the news cycle. Certainly, we can expect her to have more pieces of information and more information that she releases with this interview. But with those interviews are going to come questions about conflicting statements. You know, when she tells one interviewer that she heard choice tapes of the president speaking and then later says in her book that they were sourced from other people. These are the kind of things that are going to be put into the national media spotlight. But Carol, your overall point, yes, it's going to be a busy time.
Busy time, ugly time. John Murray, Aaron Delmore, thanks to you both.